Holy cow. Welcome everyone to Voices of Integrity podcast for Top Gun Sales Training Boot Camp. And man, oh man, I don't know. Are you all on fire like I am? Obviously not. Like sheepers. Like last night in my sleep, it's like, it's like, whoa, baby cakes. Like, wow. Okay. We're on week 2. What you guys got? I mean, I got so much that you guys, once I get going, oh, there's no way you guys are gonna like. So, what do you have, Nora? What do you have for us today?
I was having a conversation with a gentleman yesterday and trying to do a 30-minute, and he just kept talking and talking and talking and talking. And I was like, ugh, like it wasn't that the conversation, well, I guess it wasn't that interesting if I was like annoyed by it, but um like I asked a question and he like wouldn't answer it, but then he would have all this other stuff to say. Like, how do you move him along?
You know what he wanted to accomplish from the conversation?
No.
So, in therapy, one of the techniques in therapy, a therapist will say, "So, thinking 6 months into the future, like, what do you want to be like? What do you want? What experience do you want to have, or what do you want to accomplish?" So the therapist is clear, like helping the person set a goal. So you can do that, in a conversation. So you just interrupt them, say, so it's more acceptable to interrupt somebody if you're asking them a question socially. So it's easier to do too, especially as a woman. So as a woman, you're taught from a little girl, don't interrupt your dad. Don't interrupt men. So a woman is at a huge disadvantage in sales because she can't interrupt. So the men will just take advantage of her and just talk and talk and talk, and they think she's interested. So you can interrupt and say, "Excuse me, like I'm just curious, like in an ideal dream world, what would you like to accomplish in our conversation today?" Now, sometimes they'll say, "Well, what would you like to accomplish?" And then you can say, "Well, I'd like to ask you, some questions to get to know you better." But then what's going to happen. He's going to talk forever. And so, do you go ahead and say, "Hey, um, I actually got an associate. Her name's Becky, and I think she would go ahead and I think she could probably help you, maybe more than I can." So do you dish him to Becky? Becky's like, "Ooh, yeah, I can't wait for somebody like that." So they're not disciplined. So you interrupt them, and then you find out what they're looking for, and you just say, "Can I, and then often I'll go ahead and say, so 1 to 10. So when somebody like that, a man like that, so it's talking and explaining himself, I just say 1 to 10, you know, like how much confidence do you have? And how much would you like to have? So what I do is I see the problem. I see a problem. It's self-confidence. And so I'll go 1 to 10. I'll just take it out and I'll just go 1 to 10. So 1 to 10, how much self-confidence do you have? What would you like to have? And see if that slows him down. Do I have permission to, did you get his biggest challenge?
Yeah.
So biggest challenge. And so, what's your goal to help, figure out the next step on the biggest challenge? So it seems like your mind is racing so fast that you kind of talk a lot. I'm not saying it's bad, so you learn to go ahead and shift into that type of energy. So you're bringing your energy with his energy together and they're battling for the solution.
Okay.
And so, does that work?
Yeah.
Anything else you got?
Not right now.
Becky, what you got?
I had the same thing Laura did.
Okay, so did that answer your question too?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Kenny, what you got?
So, when presenting a solution, and you feel like you're not quite able to present what the client or what the customer wants or what is within their budget, what do you
You
what do you
go
do then?
ahead and well, you have a number of options. like what we had talked to Luke before, you know, walls of opportunities. There are 6 different possible solutions. And so 6 different approaches you could have. So one is if they're not right for you, you can refer them to somebody else.
Uh-huh.
Another option is you can say, I can give you, like, you know, our approach, we do business a lot different from other individuals, and then we have a 3-step process to determine if or how we might be able to help somebody. So step 1 is to go ahead and do an examination. And so just like a doctor is never going to give you a prescription without an examination, same thing is true with us. We don't know if or how we can help you until we go ahead and, you know, find out some more information. Step 2 is potential solutions, and step 3 is going to be implementation. So the 3-step process is examination, solution, and implementation. Does that make sense to you? And they say, I mean, I'm saying it faster than I do it with them, but I kind of mirror and model them. And they're like, yeah. And then I swing back around. So I go through and I say, here's the process: examination, solution, and implementation. Now, this is everybody. Every salesperson has this presentation. It's not just used to sell action, it's used to sell anything. Then you go back and say, now in the examination, you know, it could be a simple short series of questions, or it could be a much more comprehensive thorough assessment. It's really up to you. In solutions, what we have found is people tend to like 3 types of solutions, kind of a basic, intermediate, and advanced. A basic is if people aren't sure what they need to do, but they want to do something, they know they need to do something, it's a good place to start. Or, you know, if their budget's really tight, or, you know, if they don't have a high sense of urgency to move forward, or if they like to, you know, understand everything before they do anything. So those are 4 specific things. And so what you're seeing now is 30 plus years of sales coming out. It's all reflex for me. I mean, I just kick in. This is the presentation. On implementation, some people like to implement fast. Other people like to implement slow. It's totally fine. Every solution we'd ever have is going to be customized specifically to you. So if you have a 3 types of solution, then you have a basic, intermediate, and advanced. So for me, the fastest way to get through the presentation that has them understand is this 3-step. So they go, oh, I understand that. When I connect it back into a doctor, almost everybody I've ever met have gone to a doctor. They tend to be respected-ish, mostly. So I'm tapping in, so they're like, oh, this is like going to a doctor. I can trust Mark because he's like my doctor. He's gonna ask questions, and then he's gonna come back with a prescription, and I need to trust him. So I'm tapping into something very, very deep in who they are. So you could give them different solutions. You know, here's a basic. You think they can only afford a basic, but maybe they can go with the intermediate. Normally in sales, you don't have enough skill, especially when you're starting, or most salespeople ever, to go ahead and sell somebody the wrong solution. You get really, really good at sales, and you can sell somebody the wrong solution. You can charge them too much. So that's where, you know, but it's not black and white often. And so does that help or not so much, Kenny?
Yeah, that helps.
Luke, what you got?
So I looked at a job, I think it was last week, and I spoke with the customer. He was like, it was an insurance job, something part of the house is damaged. He said, I want, just for now, I want a quote to do this and this and this. Well, we were going to do all the repairs and then no new building, but he didn't tell me about some stuff, and I didn't catch it until later. Now I need photos from that stuff. Like, how do you, and I asked for the photos, how do you move the customer along? Or do I go out and get photos myself? Or how do you stay professional but have the customer help you?
Yeah. So to escalate, to accelerate, that's why, like in the presentation, you know, in the tab, that's why you have these questions. So you're trying to get a feel for sense of urgency. And people will procrastinate, and then they'll blame you. So I would say, with other people, I would say that, with my kids, I'd say your lack of planning doesn't constitute an emergency on my part, but customers are often there. So when you go through here, you find out coachability, like are people open, but here you're looking at procrastination. So you're trying to get, what you do on that situation is you try to get, like, when would you like this job done? So, and they say, well, I'd like it done in 2 weeks or a month or whatever. To do that, we need to have certain things. So I'm concerned if I don't get these photos over by the, end of the day or tomorrow, if I don't get these by then, my concern is we're not going to be able to reach your goals. So everything that you're applying pressure is not for selfish reasons. It's for reasons for them. It's not to close the sale. It's because this is what they've said they want. You're just seeking to help them get what they say they want. So you're anticipating what they're going to do before they do it, and you get out in front of them. So they say in teaching, a teacher, like in grade school or middle school, they say a great teacher is not the ones who know how to deal with conflict with students. A great teacher is the one that see conflict before it's there, and they're proactive in eliminating that. Part of that comes from personality. Part of it comes from experience. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have anything else? So where were you guys focused on here? Were you guys focused on the past, the present, the short term, or the future?
Present or the short term?
Yeah, maybe a little past from yesterday or whatever, but mostly present and short term, right in this area. Where am I focused on?
Future.
Almost always. What's better? Sorry, it's a trick question.
Depends.
Yeah, it
Neither.
depends. All of them. You have to go ahead. And so when you look at it, if you don't think about, you got to have a vision. You have to have a vision. So Nora and Becky, they both have a vision. They have clarity. So there's things that yesterday I saw, and I'm like, that's an enemy to getting to their 1-1. And they don't realize it. They don't realize this is an enemy to getting to their 1-1, their wow. And they don't realize it. So you got to have a vision. Kenny and Luke, you both have a vision for the future where you want your business to be in a year. So that's really good. You've got to go ahead and reflect on the past so you learn from the past. So there's two purposes of the past. One is to learn lessons from them, and two is to go ahead and enjoy it, to have pleasant memories. So those are the two reasons. To learn from it, which is typically unpleasant often. So you don't want to eliminate unpleasant experiences from the past, because that's how we learn, is through unpleasant experiences. And you have to balance that off. You have fond memories. And then in the present and in the short term, you're thinking about what am I going to do right now today that's going to go ahead and help me accomplish what I want in the future. So my future is going to be a better future because of this work, sacrifice, and risk I'm taking in the short term. Questions? Okay. So this here, it would be good to have dates. And you guys getting like reflexes. And then connecting into, like, here you have a link. When are we going to cover, this here? What podcast training are we going to go into this here? We're kind of working on this here, and I don't want to move beyond it. We'll always come back to the questions, but we got to get going. The conversation with the 3 Boersma women. Okay, Nora went through that. Now, if you don't know the date, I guess you could put completed, but typically you want dates. You don't want this. I don't know when it's completed. I don't know at what speed. So with Karina, Kenny said, how do I accelerate it? See, him learning how to accelerate that healing and whatever learning, it's not just for that, it's for this too. What Nora and Becky are looking to do, most salespeople don't do in 10 years. They're trying to accomplish in 12 months what most salespeople won't accomplish maybe their whole life. Definitely not 10 years. So they're scrunching it down. It's like, holy cow. And then, what about this here? And so we need to go ahead and have, what podcast? What podcast is this? And so you guys are going through here. Okay, we got this here. And then we're, so this one here is going to be, so this one here, but we're not going deep. Like, so here, this is wide. So going back in the organization, going back into the organization of what we're doing. So this is wide here. This is going to be deep. So you guys have another class. Can you go through them both together? I don't know. Like, a part of me is glad that Nora and Becky don't understand how hard it is to get to what they want to get to. Why is that?
Because then they wouldn't do it.
They wouldn't do it. It's too hard. I mean, if a parent ever really understood how hard it would be to raise a child, they'd never have children. They just wouldn't. You don't have children. Like, wow. So here, somebody can fill out, okay, what's the lessons for going deep, with box 4, I think. So do you go through this here? And so you guys got to keep this up here. This here, you guys want, this is a tool. This is like your in construction, it's like your nail gunner. It's like your tool belt, actually, is what it is. It's a tool belt. And so do you guys know this intimately? Is this part of, like last night, I go through it, I don't know, for the 10th time. And it's like, okay, like Becky's getting 75 of these today, and they're going out to, the Amish businesses. There's over 700 Amish businesses this bad boy's going out to. It's going to get spread around. There's over 700 businesses that are going to go ahead and do this. And so they're going to need, construction. And so Jason, he wouldn't pay anybody to do any work on his house. Why not?
Because he knows how to do it.
Because he knows how to do it. One of the downsides, and so of knowing how to do it. So he had a huge hard time doing that. Like, even his own brother-in-laws, like, it was hard to pay somebody. I'm like, dude, you can take your time. Like, one is your wife is frustrated because you're not getting this stuff along. You got to get along. Like, it can't take you 4 years to do this. Like, pay them and then take that time and invest it into something more productive. So in the Amish business people, they can probably do a lot of the work, but should they do it? So this thing here is a huge tool to all of you. So this is guiding us, and then we're going to continue simple to complex to simple. So, this is where, the end from computer programming. And so this is where, so this seems to be life. So what you do is, to make the most money in business, you simplify it. You get to the maximum point of simplicity. And this is typically at 500,000 in sales, $1 million, 2.5 million, 5 million, 10 million, 25 million, 50, 100, 250 million. It seems to be that's how it is. Don't ask me why. It just seems like it. And then simplify it. So what's when you hit that level, what do you want to do?
Move to the next level.
You want to go from 1 million to something more. And it can be easier to go to 2.5 million than it is to go to 1.3 million. But what happens is there's a valley here. So what you do is you go ahead and you have to add complexity. You just have to. You simplified it as much as you possibly can. This is going to another dimension. You're going to another dimension. So what happens is you add complexity. When you add complexity, what happens to your business? Your profit margins plummet. You can make more money at $1 million in sales than you can at 2.5 million. So you plummet. It gets worse. And when you start getting worse and worse, what do people do?
Go back.
Back off.
They go back. They go back to where they were. Why? Because they're lazy. Why? I just figured this out.
They don't understand how close they are.
No, they don't have any vision. They don't have any vision. And so right here, just added this at Sunday at church. Like, oh my goodness, like Kenny and Nora were a part of this. Like they were a part of the discovery of this. It's like crazy cool. Be humble and let go of your ego. Learn perfect love and let go of fear. Grow in healing to overcome woundedness. Discover our life vision to overcome laziness. Like that was discovered on Sunday morning at church. Like, what'd you get out of church? What'd you get out of Sunday? This is going to be here forever. And Kenny and Nora were a part of it. And I don't know, honestly, if they weren't there, I don't know if I'd have come up with this. Maybe I would have. I don't know. And so what happens is you go down and then you go down and then you go down. And now all of a sudden you're in the, so what happens, only the people with vision go beyond this. And they go all the way down to here. Now what happens here is something snaps inside of you. You're like, doggone it. Like, I have worked so hard. I'm going to figure this stupid thing out. You get angry, you get mad, you get ticked off, you get, are you mad? And so then what you do is you simplify everything that you've been through and you take the 80-20 rule. And then all of a sudden, boom, you go up to the next level. So naturally, when I discovered this, I'm like, and this was come from computer programming. I asked again, I'm like, I told you these requirements. Why did you do it this way? I explained it. I'm like, that's brilliant. So, how do you go ahead and not have the deep valleys? You move to complex sooner. Reduce the time you're into complex, meaning figure out how to be complex without the complexity. Use the 80-20 to find out the best of the complexity and then master. Have a great plan, prepare, have great people, and be focused. And so, when you give birth, it's going to be painful. It just is. That's just life. But you can make it worse. You can put your life at risk. You can put the baby's life at risk. You just can. And so same thing is true in business. When you're making dimensional jumps, it's risky. When you're taking your business to the next level. And if you don't go ahead and get help, so the Amish, they're very, very concerned about burning out, their marriages and their kids. Well, if you think you can control, you can't control your children. They're going to grow up. They just are. And so you can't control your business. It's going to continue to grow and take more of your time. If you don't get the systems in place, you're going to have to, like the two Amish businesses that Jason and I had looked at about buying, and both of them young guys in their late 30s, and they're like, yeah, I have to sell. Well, what if we came in? No, my wife is making me sell. Why? Because he, not only was he burned out, but she was burned out. So she's like, no, sell the whole thing. You can't keep any of it. And he's going to do the same thing the next time. Like because he doesn't understand all these natural laws. So how do you help him understand it? Nora, anything else you got?
I don't think so.
Becky, anything you got?
No, I don't think so.
Kenny, anything else you got?
So it would seem to make sense to just stay at the simple level of business.
Okay.
Keep things at that, keep the numbers good, profitable, and just keep.
Okay. Is there a question there?
Is that not the case, or is that
Oh no, for sure.
like business wise? Why are businesses always trying to make more money, trying to grow, trying to get bigger? Like if you find your sweet spot, stay in it and make money.
So is there a question there?
Why don't people do that then? Or are there people that do that?
There are people who do that. So, like, why? And I'm talking men, but there's some men that are more like women. There's some women more like men. So why does man want to conquer things? Why does he want to go ahead and, I mean, why play football? Why play sports? It's kind of silly. Why try to win? Like, why try to get more? Why don't we just, grow where we're planted? Like why do anything? Why not just settle for where we're at? I mean, if you can do that, do it. I mean, I wish I could make my life. I mean, our son says, Dad, you don't have to work for money. Like, you don't have to work. Why don't you and Mom get an RV and just travel around the country? I wish I could. Someday I might be able to. Right now, I can't. Right now, I'm on fire. I've worked too long, too hard. No, I'm taking ground. Someday I might not. So if you can go ahead and just be okay with where you're at, then be okay for sure. Do it, enjoy it. I'm envious, jealous, not in a bad way. I just like that would be so cool just to enjoy life, just to sit back and I mean, that's what the drug users do. They go into a drug den and they just go ahead and sit back and relax and have drugs and stuff like that. Like, I mean, like Alvin Miller and Mel, they said, some people work 5 days a week, so they can go ahead and go fishing on, over the weekend. Alvin and Mel and I can't do that. So if you can do that, if you can just do that, like, why not? I mean, but there is something in human nature. God's built within us something to go ahead and conquer, to grow, to go ahead and expand our horizons, to do more. God's just built that in us. And his business, it's like, well, I mean, when your kids are like, if Lincoln's, he's a perfect age. Like, why can't he just stop there? Why can't Nora just why can't she just, why does he have to grow? Why can't he just stay as a 3-year-old? And so, yeah, these are philosophical questions, Kenny, that I've thought a lot about. So if God created you, to do that, Well, good. Do that. Enjoy it. Me, I don't understand it, but it's okay. It's not, there's not a judgment, you know. I mean, now, if we were created to do more than that, and we just do, I would think that's like the parable of the, you know, the talents, and the one talent, like they didn't want to take risk. They didn't want to do the work. They just buried the talent. They just put it in the ground. That
Mm-hmm.
didn't work out so well for that person. But it's a valid question. It's a good one. Other questions?
Nope, I don't think so.
All right. So hopefully you all that are watching this, you know, oh, there's so many cool things going on. So, let's keep an eye, on, the present with the vision of the future, remembering the past. Let's make sure we're keeping up with our spreadsheets and we're driving things along. Let's understand, hey, if we want to get from here to here, this is what we need to do. And so hopefully this has been helpful to everybody. Have an amazing day. All right. So Nora said, say it. Say what?
Whatever you were thinking.
So in sales, there's little things. You miss a little thing, you miss your wow income goal. It's like flying. Like that pilot that, he's a famous race car driver. So he's really good at, driving cars fast. Didn't die on the track, I think he died on the runway landing. Made one mistake. He hadn't been flying for that long. So did he go ahead? Did ego get the better of him? Like, I'm a good pilot? I don't know. They won't know for a year. Maybe not even then. Who knows? So, but they'll really try to figure it out. They don't like when planes crash. You die in an automobile accident, they'll figure that out pretty quick. But planes, they don't. The aviation industry does not like. They want to figure out what happened. And um, so in sales, it's the same thing. And so you ladies have distractions. So Alvin Miller, he and his wife, he shared this. So he's in his 80s. They've been married for over 60 years. And I said to him, I said, so, you've been married 60 years. I've only been married 40. Like, there's some things in my marriage that I just think are stupid. Like, how can we be married for 40 years and still have these issues? It doesn't make any sense to me. Do you have any of those things where you're like, we should be beyond this? I mean, I could see if we were just married for a few years, but he just laughed with me, even though I wasn't laughing. He's like, yeah, Mark, that's always going to be the case. I'm like, really? I don't know if that encouraged me or discouraged me. I honestly don't know. So he shared a story when he was younger, a lot younger, and he and his wife were having tension on stuff. Like, they were having tension. They were like, they weren't in agreement. And so he would go ahead and he would walk to work, and he'd walk, I don't know, a mile, and there was a stream. And as soon as he went over that stream, he went ahead and forgot the issues, at home. So it's like he would put it. So she was frustrated. She's like, how can you work when we don't have? So he'd come home and he'd be like, she'd be like, how can you work? How can you work when, when like, she's having a hard time working because they're not in flow. And he's like, well, honey, like, this is how I do it. Like, he explained, he says, I go to the creek, and as soon as I go to the creek, I go ahead and lay down, the burden or the issue here. And I go to the other side of the creek, and then I pick it up, and then I work. So he's in a sawmill. Like, you don't want to go ahead and be concerned about your marriage when you're doing a saw. You could chop off your arm or head or leg. You could die. Like, you got to pay attention to what you're doing. And he says, so what I do is a brilliant husband, a brilliant story. This is why I hang out with him every week. Like, dang, this is good stuff. Like, so he said he'd go to work and at the creek, he'd put it aside and he'd just focus just on, like a horse, just, blinders. Like, she couldn't understand that. She's frustrated. She's having a hard time. Like, how is he working? How come we don't get this thing resolved? And then he comes back home and he sets the work problems down on the one side, goes over the creeks, picks up figuratively, picks up the problem, goes home and addresses it. That's where most men make mistakes. Most men make mistakes where they don't pick it up. They don't pick up the problems on the other side of the creek and come home and say, okay. So he wasn't ignoring them. He just has to work. Like, I have to work to put food on the table. Like money doesn't grow on trees. Like, you have to go ahead and focus in on work and production. You have to do that. You just have to do that. And so he was a disciplined husband. And so he came home. He says, we'll work it out. And eventually they did. But it wasn't one day. It was over a period of time. It was over a period of time. So why is that story so important to both of you?
Do you have stuff outside of work?
Yeah, and with this work, sometimes we work at, midnight. So, so sometimes we work at midnight, sometimes 10 o'clock. So it's not a 9 to 5. It's not just go here. So, but you have to be very, very, very careful during the day, during sales hours. So when I was selling, like, I just went ahead and, when I was selling, I went ahead and sold. Like when I can pick up the phone, I did all my admin early morning, late evening, weekend, holidays. Sales time was sales time. I'm on the phone and I am doing sales. Like, when I can do sales, I can do sales. Like, everything was focused in on sales, like everything. And so there's no distraction about, husband, ex-husband, kids. Like, it is, I'm here to sell, and that's what I'm here to do. And so it's hard for you. You own your own companies. And so, but learning the ability to go ahead and put it aside and just totally fixate on selling. Like, I'm going to go ahead and get another one, and I'm going to get another one. And there's been some really hard times in our marriage of 41 years. And it's weird. Like, and with kids, it's just exhausting. It's just like, you got to be kidding. Like, my gracious. But when I work, when I'm productive, like, I'll have no energy. Like, if Roseanne and I have a fight in the morning, or, whatever, like on a weekend, like sometimes or my kids, like, I go to swim lessons, I'm like, I'm so exhausted. But if I can work, if I can be productive, then I can come back and look at things again. I can look like I have more energy after work than before work. And I think that's often hard, maybe for a woman to understand. I don't know. It's complicated. So be disciplined. Treat yourself like an employee in your own company. Treat yourself like a salesperson. Like, you've got to be hard on yourself. Because if you don't, the marketplace will be. The marketplace doesn't care if you're a cute little zebra. If you're a cute girl, or sweet, or nice, you'll get eaten alive in the market. It'll eat you. It doesn't care. The marketplace, when Jonathan died, the marketplace didn't give a rip. Not a rip. Our clients actually did. We had some really cool clients that were very caring. But in the end, I still knew they have to run their business. They have to go ahead and so I had to be there for them. And fortunately, Ginger Ann and Elise were there, and for which I'll forever be grateful for them for that. And so it's like, the discipline to go ahead and say, this is what I have to do today in sales. I have to make these calls. I have to do this and this and this, and discipline yourself. Be really careful with the emotions, the feelings. Use those for good. Use those for positive. Do not allow them to allow you to get off focus. So the very things that are driving you to be financially successful, do not allow those things to hold you back based on energy. Questions?
No.
All right. Good stuff.